Hello class, my name is Amanda Mitchell and I am going to be presenting to you my research paper on goal setting theory. I researched goal setting theory in an effort to identify if goal setting theory has the potential of increasing organizational success, particularly through improving employee attitude. So for my lit review, I looked at kind of the history of goal setting theory and how it originated and where we are now with what we know about goal setting. And traditionally, goal setting was studied just by looking at the effects that it can have on an individual. And it's been well documented that just the act of setting a goal can increase an individual's motivation and therefore can definitely increase production. If employees are more motivated, they're going to have more of an output. So in this way, goal setting theory is historically and widely accepted to be a really solid way of increasing organizational success. However, my paper is not just on can goal setting theory increase organizational success, but I want to see if goal setting theory has the ability to improve employee attitude and increase organizational success through that manner. So goal setting theory, as I said, traditionally looks at the individual, but as that focus is broadened to look at more complex situations, for instance, whenever multiple goals are set on a person, then things get a little less straightforward and a little bit more complicated. The main thing that I learned through my research was that when multiple goals are in play, people tend to have to prioritize those goals and they end up choosing the least difficult of the goals. So this kind of gives a different perspective on if goal setting is always motivating and always resulting in increased production. When in these situations where you have multiple goals, the person is going to have to choose which goal they're going to focus their time and energy on, and usually it's the least difficult. So that may or may not give you a very increased production level in the organization. So beyond that, there are 5 main variables that go into goal setting theory that can affect the results that you get. And I'm going to go over them hopefully very quickly here. The first is goal difficulty, and that's the idea that greater effort and performance is the result when the goals are more difficult. So difficult and challenging goals tend to energize the performer and give them more motivation. The second variable is goal complexity, which I kind of already talked about a little bit when I was talking about having multiple goals, how that can kind of change the process a little bit. I know for myself, when I think about my position in the organization that I work for, my goals are always complex. Very rarely do I have a day at work where I have just one objective that I need to focus my time and energy on. I'm a project manager, so usually I have dozens of projects on my horizon that I have to keep tabs on, and I have different goals for all of them. So this is goal complexity. It's very typical in organizations, and it can stem from not just having more than one goal, but having just different expectations. It can result from having role ambiguity or having more than one role that you're trying to fulfill. It can come from having different supervisors that you report to. So typically, whenever the goal situation is more complex in this manner, employees have to prioritize their goals, and usually goal difficulty is what is used to navigate that complexity. Typically, they'll hit the lowest hanging fruit, as my boss likes to say, so that you achieve the things that are easiest to achieve first, and then you move on to the more difficult goals. So that's goal complexity. The third variable is feedback, and feedback has to do with the employer who maybe helps you set the goal. When they come alongside you and they actually get you talking about your goals, they help you strategize ways to achieve them. Feedback is really important because it gives the employer an opportunity to motivate their employees through encouragement and positive reinforcement. So feedback can be a really nifty tool for employers in the goal setting process. The fourth variable I want to talk about is goal specificity. And this is the idea that specific goals are where you're going to see an increase in motivation. When goals are vague or too general, they typically don't have the same effect as if the goal is very specific and clear, because when that's the case, the employee knows exactly what they need to be working on and they're able to do it. The fifth variable is goal attainability, and this is if it has more to do with the person. It has to do if they have a belief that they can actually achieve the goals that have been set. So if the goal is attainable or not will affect if the goal setting is an effective way of increasing motivation. The last one, about goal attainability, kind of segues into the next part of the lit review that I looked at, and that is regarding different personality types. And so there are two different goal orientations that a person can have, and that will affect how they feel about goal attainability. There are positive orientations, and two examples of a positive goal orientation is learning orientation and performance prove orientation. Learning orientation people they approach their goals by seeking to find how they can equip themselves to reach their goals. What can they learn? What do they need to learn to be able to be successful and complete their goals? Performance prove oriented individuals are more of those, go-getters. They're going to get in there, they're going to get it done, and they're more focused on the results, maybe more so than how are they going to get there. Both of these individuals, both of these have positive orientations, and they're typically more focused on success and achievement, and they're not afraid to seek higher difficult goals, give more effort. They are willing to receive feedback from their employers and revise their strategies to meet their goals if necessary. So those are positive orientations. The second is avoidant orientations. An example of that is performance avoid individuals. These individuals are more motivated to avoid negative outcomes rather than being motivated towards success and achievement. They want to avoid being seen as incompetent, and they tend to set lower goals to reduce that risk of failing or getting adverse feedback from their coworkers or employers. So out of positive orientations and avoidant orientations, positive orientations are more likely to succeed as a result of goal setting processes. So that concludes my literature review that I conducted on goal setting theory. The hypothesis of my paper was that I expected that goal setting has the potential to transform employee attitudes from negative to positive and increase an organization's threshold for success through transforming that employee attitude. My research approach for looking at this hypothesis was obviously a literature review. I wanted to look at the research to see if there was any insight in the goal setting research on employee attitude. Once I had a solid understanding of goal setting theory, then I extended my research more into the realms of employee motivation and satisfaction and well-being, and I tried to study the effect that those things can have on an organization. The results of this study, I discovered four main things. The first is that goal setting really inherently rests on the premise that employees seek satisfaction in their work. Goal setting theory gives a very strong link between motivation and satisfaction, particularly when appropriate goals are set. When an employee is more motivated, they're going to be more satisfied when they finally reach that goal. The second thing that I discovered is that, and I kind of already mentioned it, but that goal setting not only increases employee motivation, but it does increase their satisfaction. There's a term that I came across, it's pre-goal attainment positive effect, and that is actually the term that is used for the happiness that a person experiences as they near meeting their goals or as they anticipate a future positive effect. So this demonstrates that as an individual progresses toward attaining their goal, their general well-being is enhanced. So the third thing that I learned is that goal setting affects employee self-esteem. So I already talked about well-being, but it also comes down to the employee self-esteem as well. The main way that I see goal setting theory being able to improve employee self-esteem is through feedback. And this is where managers can have a really powerful impact on their employees. They have, through feedback, through coming alongside them and coaching them through their goals, managers can empower and affirm their employees as they strive toward reaching their goals. Empowerment definitely improves employee attitude, and all of these things, having a positive well-being and self-esteem and empowerment, all contribute toward organizational success. So the fourth thing and the final thing that I discovered is, and this was a running theme through all of the research that I conducted, and it is that positive atmospheres and satisfied employees definitely contribute to organizational success. There's a wide consensus of scholars through all the research that I did that employee well-being is absolutely vital to organizational success. A really obvious element is the cost of turnover. When you have dissatisfied employees, they're less likely to stick around with your organization, and that causes a domino effect of having to pay more to replace those employees or replace that knowledge, and it can have a negative effect on production. So having satisfied employees should definitely be a high priority, or at least a priority, if you want to have a successful organization. For suggestions for further research, there are two things that I noticed in my research that I didn't quite learn as much as I wanted to, and I was interested in learning more. The first is the goal setting process in a group context. The research that I read talked about this a little bit, but more particularly than just goal setting in a group context, I want to look at the effect that a group atmosphere can have on a person's attitude and their personal satisfaction. So for example, if I'm in a group and my group leader comes into work and just has a really awful attitude, is that going to affect my attitude? Is it going to affect the attitudes of the rest of the people on my team? Is it going to affect my drive to achieve my goals? So I think a deeper understanding of the way that groups can contribute to either employee satisfaction or dissatisfaction would further inform the study of goal setting theory in those contexts. So that was the first suggestion I had for further research. The second has to do with performance avoid individuals. I was really interested if there is any potential for goal setting theory to be tailored specifically to performance avoid individuals. I've already talked about it a little bit, but these individuals tend to be less confident and don't typically receive the same benefits from goal setting theory, which is increased motivation, increased satisfaction. So I would want to conduct further research to see if that the employee that you're coaching is a performance avoid individual. If there's a way to set an appropriate and challenging goal for that personality type that can have the potential to increase their confidence and produce similar levels of satisfaction that positive orientation employees would experience, and possibly even if you could set a goal to help them change their goal orientation to one that is more conducive to their personal and the organization's success. So in conclusion, as a result of all of the research that I've conducted, both on goal setting theory and the effect of employee satisfaction on organizational success, I believe that there is very strong evidence that goal setting theory can not only increase organizational success through motivation and increased production, but also through the ways that it can promote employee satisfaction. So this was my presentation on goal setting theory and the applications that can be made toward employee attitude in an organizational context. So I thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading your replies.